Imagine thinking you absolutely control the world's most critical technology, only to realize your biggest rival just built a completely unsanctionable massive gigawatt factory right under your nose. Splendid, really. We are talking about microchips, those tiny magical brains of silicon that run absolutely everything, from your mundane microwave to highly classified hypersonic nuclear missiles whizzing around the globe daily. For decades, America confidently held the reins, designing the most advanced chips and outsourcing the tedious, incredibly expensive manufacturing to their trusty friends in Taiwan. A perfectly safe bet, right? Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, became the undisputed king of these hyper-clean factories, producing almost all the advanced chips on Earth, effectively creating an incredibly powerful geopolitical silicon shield. Meanwhile, China woke up, realizing they were buying nearly half the world's chips but making almost none of the advanced ones. A rather uncomfortable position for an aspiring global superpower. Washington panicked, slapping massive export controls on China, cutting off access to the brilliant Dutch machines and advanced American designs required to actually manufacture these microscopic marvels of modern engineering. The grand American strategy was remarkably simple: deny China the absolute best technology, completely freeze their military advancement, and casually maintain global dominance for a few more decades. Brilliant theory. However, in a twist of truly exquisite irony, those very sanctions simply forced China to stop buying American tech and start throwing billions into building their own independent semiconductor ecosystem. Instead of crippling them, America accidentally motivated a colossal national engineering project. China's universities churned out engineers, and local governments subsidized startups to build a completely independent, resilient supply chain. And then, the impossible happened. A Chinese company called SMIC managed to mass-produce 7-nanometer chips without the most advanced extreme ultraviolet machines, shocking Washington and proving the sanctions completely leaky. The real bottleneck was supposed to be the ecosystem. You cannot simply copy 30 years of precision optics, metrology software, and global field service infrastructure inside a single 5-year plan. But wait, things that were supposed to be completely impossible have a terribly consistent habit of taking slightly longer than expected and then miraculously happening anyway due to sheer, unyielding determination. You see, the harder you cut a massive rival off from the technological frontier, the more immense pressure you organically create for them to inevitably build their very own sovereign solutions. Huawei shocked everyone again by introducing a revolutionary technique called logic folding. Instead of frantically shrinking transistors on a flat plane, they ingeniously stacked the logic across multiple vertical layers. It is essentially like adding a second story to a sprawling office building. Signals take a tiny hop straight up instead of a long, exhausting walk across the entire flat facility. By completely fusing two wafers face to face with astonishing precision, Huawei dramatically increased the bandwidth between layers. This magnificent architectural leap completely bypasses the urgent need for smaller, heavily sanctioned transistors. The results are quite staggering. Their upcoming chips cram in 53% more transistors while simultaneously being 41% more energy efficient. Absolutely brilliant innovation born entirely from harsh constraints. This vertical climb is utterly redefining Moore's law. Instead of agonizingly shrinking geometry on a flat surface, the entirely new frontier is ambitiously climbing into the third dimension with stacking layers. And it gets even more fascinating when you look at artificial intelligence. We are talking about a completely unhinged global gold rush for computational power that demands absolutely enormous electrical energy. Training these massive frontier models requires vast numbers of incredibly advanced graphics processing units. The countries are not just competing for algorithms, they are literally fighting for physical, tangible silicon access. Just recently, a Chinese startup called ZI quietly completed a colossal 1 gigawatt ultra-large data center, fully powered by their very own domestically manufactured artificial intelligence chips. Quite the bold geopolitical statement. That much power could comfortably run 750,000 households. It provides China with the massive computational resources required to confidently rival America's absolutely dominant big tech monopolies. While Washington fiercely debates more regulations, the Chinese government is quietly mobilizing an absolutely massive industrial ecosystem that stubbornly stretches from raw rare earth processing all the way to intricate chip packaging. Meanwhile, China's new AI models are sending absolute shockwaves straight through Wall Street. A model named Kimi K3 just shockingly outranked major American competitors in crucial software coding performance benchmark tests. It turns out these Chinese models are not just incredibly capable, they are also significantly cheaper to operate. This utterly terrifying combination is genuinely causing American frontier labs to completely panic. Investors are slowly realizing that providing expensive AI capabilities basically means burning cash with every single prompt. The competitive advantage of cost-effective intelligence is absolutely crucial for any long-term corporate survival. Silicon Valley heavyweights are now loudly demanding completely permissionless innovation, desperately begging the government to aggressively slash regulations before their precious, tightly held global technological lead completely evaporates into thin air forever. The Trump administration, seemingly sensing an escalating crisis, is reportedly weighing drastic measures to legally block American companies from utilizing or accessing these highly efficient Chinese artificial intelligence models almost entirely. This fundamentally shifts the war. It is no longer solely about violently blocking semiconductor exports, it is now about desperately preventing cost-effective Chinese AI from deeply penetrating the lucrative American domestic market. The true irony here is practically suffocating. America historically championed absolutely free markets and open global trade, but now finds itself abruptly abandoning those precise principles to fiercely protect its fragile dominance. Look across the ocean, and President Xi is cleverly pitching China as a generous AI partner to the developing world, cheerfully warning them against the creeping risks of overbearing Western security overreach. This diplomatic charm offensive is rapidly turning third countries into the ultimate technological battleground. Those nations maintain delightfully relaxed views on exactly where they source their crucial, foundational digital infrastructure technology. Meanwhile, Southeast Asia finds itself trapped in an incredibly precarious compliance dilemma. They desperately want massive data center investments but must strictly prevent illegal diversion of restricted advanced American AI chips. If a country accidentally enables Chinese firms to access these sanctioned chips, they risk devastating American secondary sanctions that could instantly sever their access to vital global technology supply chains almost entirely. Consequently, Washington shifted its export rules to focus strictly on ultimate corporate ownership. If your parent company sits in China, you are thoroughly restricted, regardless of your actual physical geographic location worldwide. But verifying this ultimate ownership is a notoriously fiendish task. Chinese tech firms utilize notoriously complex corporate structures, skillfully hiding behind multiple confusing layers of holding companies in highly opaque island jurisdictions. This imposes a brutally heavy compliance burden on Southeast Asian regulators, who sadly lack the robust institutional capacity to perfectly monitor these incredibly complex structures across rapidly expanding local data centers today. So these regional leaders must flawlessly walk a terrifying geopolitical tightrope. Lean too far toward Chinese capital, and America immediately cuts you off. Lean toward America, and Beijing abruptly walks away entirely. We are essentially witnessing the painful birth of a completely divided world. The global semiconductor supply chain, once a beautiful masterpiece of economic interdependence, is violently splitting into two massive ecosystems. One ecosystem remains deeply centered on the United States and its loyal allies. The other is becoming increasingly self-reliant and highly resilient, driven fiercely by China's absolute, unwavering determination to perfectly survive. This massive transition will undeniably be messy and incredibly expensive. Consumers will inevitably feel it through consistently higher prices, and everyday businesses will face infinitely more complex, highly fractured supply chains moving forward. For 30 years, giant corporations flawlessly optimized global supply chains merely to aggressively reduce costs. The next 30 years will be entirely about brutally reducing dependence, regardless of the ultimate financial price paid. We casually assumed that because one country originally invents a technology, it will automatically dominate it forever. But basic history stubbornly tells us a vastly different and highly uncomfortable technological truth today. America undeniably pioneered modern consumer electronics, but the vast majority of actual manufacturing eventually migrated across Asia. Leadership is never permanent. Relentlessly defending it is a completely different, absolutely terrifying daily challenge. The real danger for Washington was incorrectly assuming that merely slowing China's access to advanced technology would somehow be entirely sufficient to indefinitely preserve their own rapidly shrinking, highly coveted global lead tomorrow. Determined industrial powers absolutely rarely respond to immense external pressure by simply giving up. They predictably respond by investing heavily, sometimes wastefully, but always persistently, until they finally break through completely victorious. When a nation generously funds thousands of companies over many years, complete success does not require every single project to work perfectly. It merely requires enough of them to somehow miraculously survive. Every new graduating class of brilliant Chinese chip engineers rapidly increases their capacity to solve the next massive problem internally, instead of helplessly waiting for someone else to graciously help them out later. And let us absolutely not forget the fascinating world of physical robotics. China is getting wildly aggressive in proudly showcasing incredible humanoid robots and highly advanced, slightly terrifying mechanical military exoskeletons. They are essentially demonstrating that these machines are now undeniably strong, highly capable, and potentially ready to completely revolutionize massive industries like basic construction, tedious repairs, and even advanced personal medical healthcare safely. Naturally, some American tech billionaires will immediately declare a profound national emergency, loudly insisting that absolutely all taxpayer money must be frantically funneled to their companies for highly urgent, critical national defense preparation. The Pentagon is reportedly actively dangling absolutely absurd $400,000 salaries just to aggressively recruit Wall Street bankers to brilliantly manage this rapidly expanding, incredibly lucrative new military shell game operation. So, is America hopelessly losing the chip war right now? Honestly, no. They firmly maintain absolute dominance in extremely crucial areas like advanced chip design, software, and highly specialized, intricate manufacturing equipment. But they are definitely not winning in the profoundly decisive way many fiercely patriotic analysts wildly assumed they would when these massive, unprecedented sanctions were originally announced to the public just a few years ago. China is remarkably playing an entirely different game. They are definitely not trying to miraculously win every single battle immediately today. They are happily playing for the long, brutally exhausting industrial marathon. Their ultimate goal is to absolutely ensure that exactly 10 years from now, they will no longer ever need permission from absolutely anyone to build the essential technologies they desperately desire for supremacy. This monumental chip war was honestly never merely about tiny silicon chips. It was always about who ultimately gets to aggressively shape the foundational rules of the entire 21st century global economy forever. The inevitable outcome won't be decided by one singular, miraculous technological breakthrough or one incredibly devastating sanction. It will be decided by sheer, unrelenting, absolutely exhausting industrial endurance and pure grit. The nation that can stubbornly keep building, year after grueling year, factory after massive factory, and engineer after engineer, will ultimately secure absolute, unquestionable dominance over this terrifying new digital era. Because the absolute biggest geopolitical shifts usually begin remarkably quietly, and by the time everyone finally notices them occurring, they are already far too deeply entrenched to ever be fully reversed.
If you find this video interesting, push like and subscribe buttons. Take care.